YouTube, Rook here from Rook Geek Goodness, my little channel web for all things geeky and cool, and welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back to the Funko review and unboxing video. Super stoked to finally get this character in my collection. Of course, we're talking about the dragon goddess of Dungeons & Dragons. She's known as the dragon goddess of all chromatic dragons. Of course, we're talking about Tiamat. Don't get the name confused. People call this character Tiamat. The correct pronunciation is Tiamat. And I'm really, you can tell you guys, really happy to get this character into my collection. And of course, this is an oversized pop. Price point was $25 US. This is a GameStop shared version of this pop. This was released because of New York Comic Con / Virtual Con's release of this character. The New York Comic Con / Virtual Con one's extremely hard to find, and there are some subtle differences between this one and that version of it, which we'll talk about that shortly. And I really fell in love with the character back in my youth, and that's why I wanted this character so badly, because I was introduced to this character from the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon. I'll put a picture up so you can see what she looks like. She looks a little bit different than what we're seeing in vinyl figure form, but that's okay. We'll point that out in the breakdown segment. But I said I had to get this character. Absolutely loved Tiamat in the cartoon. Had to get vinyl figure form version of her for Funko. Needed it for my collection. And they're doing a lot more Dungeons & Dragons based product now for Funko. Years ago, when it gives Funko, I would assume just recently, within the last few years, got the license to do Dungeons & Dragons product. We got Dritz and Gwenwyvar. We got Strahd von Zarkovich now. We got Beholders. So we're getting a lot of cool product. We're getting some of the old Dungeons & Dragons villains. We're getting Warduke. We're getting some of the really cool iconic characters for Dungeons & Dragons for Funko form. I hope to make the real adventuring party. That'll be something really cool down the road. But Tiamat here, of course, is the goddess of the evil dragons, or what they call chromatic dragons. The 5 colors of the bad dragons: red, blue, green, white, and black, which is represented by all the heads of the character you can see here. So I'm going to do a full breakdown of this particular character. Look at the packaging and presentation, as I always do. So the very first thing we do, of course, is the packaging. So let's take a look at the packaging first. Up top here, you have the Pop Games line, which is what this character falls in, which makes sense because it's based on the Dungeons & Dragons property. Speaking of Dungeons & Dragons, we have the logo right here. Pop number 846 in the line of Pop Games. A nice window box display you can see right here. A nice shot of what she looks like out of packaging. Over here is a nice little piece. We have a D20 included, which is kind of buried in the back of the packaging. It might be hard to notice. It's sort of a green colored dye, more of like a green apple colored. Over here is the all-important sticker that tells you where this pop came from. This is what they call the Summer Convention exclusive limited edition. This is, of course, the GameStop version. It doesn't have a GameStop sticker anywhere on the packaging over here, but this is the GameStop version. If it was the Virtual Con, the sticker would look different than this one right here. And of course, we have Tiamat down here. But before I get to the other side, just please be aware that the only difference between this pop and the New York Comic Con version is the sticker, and of course the inflated price tag. Just be aware that, as far as I know, the die is the same color, the pop is identical, just the sticker is the only difference. Just please be aware that you don't want to pay more money for something you don't need to. Over here we have a nice shot of what the character looks like out of packaging. Over here we have, of course, it says Tiamat right there, and the back of the packaging showcases a D&D symbol in the back with the black background. We've seen this before in other D&D characters. It does say Dungeons & Dragons and the characters that will be available in that particular wave. That's just sort of just branding. A nice shot what she looks like over here. Let's bring her around on the turntable so you can see what she looks like in 360. Again, very cool design. I'm happy that we're getting more Dungeons & Dragons, either good guys or bad guys or monsters being created. And this stuff years ago, when I was getting, starting to get into collectibles, this whole stuff, especially with Funko, didn't exist. And I'm only making the assumption that Funko pretty recently, within the last, I want to say, 4 to 5 years, probably nailed the Dungeons & Dragons license to start doing these sort of products. And of course, the big kicker that really started it was the Dritz and Gwenwyvar 2-pack, which I do have in my collection. I did pick up the Beholder, but I only want a few pieces here and there, but this one, absolutely, Tiamat had to be added to my collection. And with that being said, let's get this character out of packaging and get the breakdown segment. Alright guys, we have our New York Comic Con 2021 / Virtual Con Tiamat oversized pop out of packaging. And next thing we do, take a pop out of packaging, is look at the paint and articulation. First things first, let you guys know now, there is no articulation. This is a staction piece, but it is a very cool staction piece. When I took this out of the package a few minutes ago, I was like, oh, it looks so good. I love it. This is beefy, it's big, it's menacing, it looks just so damn cool, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's first take a look at one of the accessories that give us here is this really good D20. You have this little skull symbol here. This I thought would have been maybe a bigger die, like an oversized die, but it's sort of see-through, it's translucent, and it's sparkly, but I've never seen a D20 look like this particular color before. It's sort of, like I said, like a sour apple green color. Get an up-close shot of it so you can see what it looks like maybe on the turntable here, but it looks really good. It has two weird symbols, I guess the 1 and the 20. So you have a skull right here, and you have the D&D logo. I just saw it a second ago when I was spinning the die around right here. So I'm thinking maybe either the skull is a 1 and the D&D symbol is a 20, possibly, or vice versa. But it looks really good. I just wish this was a bigger die than the size of the die they included, but all things considered, very cool die. Now let's focus on the main attraction, the dragon goddess herself, the chromatic dragon leader, Tiamat. Again, not Tiamat, Tiamat. And this just looks so good. I mean, look at the sculpt of all the dragon heads. You got the blue dragon head, the white dragon head, of course, the main body, the red, the green one, and the black dragon. This is what black dragons look like. They have these cool horns coming out. This is very reminiscent, of course, Dungeons and Dragons. This is more of the newer Dungeons and Dragons dragon head, which is this one here and the blue one. The older lore for D&D didn't look like this black dragon head. I've seen the newer books. They transitioned to update some of their monsters, in this case their dragons, but it looks really good. Again, no articulation. This is all staction. This is all just sculpted in place. The heads don't move, which is one of the big key points that we'll take away from it, which we'll talk about that shortly. I'll just spin it around a little bit so you can see. One thing I was very concerned of in the packaging, I couldn't tell, is did she have wings? She in fact does. It looks like there's like damage in the wings. There's holes in the back of the wings. You can see it right there, right in the back of the wings on both sides. The tail, like most dragons, kind of curl around. Very cool. Love the way she looks. Looks absolutely amazing. Great sculpt. A lot of weight. There's a lot of heft and weight in this sculpt for Tiamat. Again, I wish there was some type of articulation. Maybe the head here with the red dragon head, maybe it would have moved. It would have liked that. But some of the other details I didn't talk about yet, for, let's say, the back of Tiamat, you can see the scales that are sculpted in. All across the blue's head, and of course going down the green, you see the fin of the green dragon head. And this kind of would touch base where they could probably make singular dragons released in oversized as well. Or if they want to keep the sort of scale deal going like they have here, either make a Tiamat in, let's say, a 10-inch pop, and scale down and make individual dragons like the black, the green, the blue, or the red, or of course the white, as individual dragons as well. Since you got that head sculpt, literally got the head piece, you just need the rest of the body, which they could probably repurpose the Tiamat body to make an individual dragon of one of the singular colors if they wanted to go down that road. Absolutely. So some final thoughts on the Tiamat New York Comic Con / VirtualCon 2021. As far as this figure goes, what would have changed, made it better? Should you purchase this character? Would have made the die a little bit bigger? Absolutely. This looks rather small. Looks like your standard D20. We have the weird symbol for the death or the skull and the D&D symbol. So I'm not sure if that's 1 or 20 or 20 and 1. I'm not sure where the layout would be for the die. Things I would have changed to add to this character, give it even more impact, make it more even wow factor. I would have made the head a little bit bigger, because usually in the cartoon and in the source material, the red body and the red head portion looks to be larger or bigger than the heads that are surrounding it. It looks like it's almost in scale. The black dragon head looks bigger just because of those horns over here, right here, if you compare it to the red dragon portion right here. So I would have made the red head a little bit larger in scale. I maybe would have tried to do something that would have gimmicked it up a little bit, maybe with the heads themselves, maybe giving it some type of articulation, maybe possibly adding a ball joint would have been a cool idea, so the head could swivel around. It didn't need to open up and close, but just to give it some movement. Yes, Funko really doesn't do ball joints per se. I don't know how they could have engineered some articulation, but having it as a staction piece, it just screams like it's needing that finishing touch. It's missing just something minute and very tiny to make this a perfect representation of Tiamat. And the other last thing, just me nitpicking, me playing armchair quarterback. Usually in the D&D cartoon, Tiamat walked on 2 legs. Like this way here, she has the bottom legs and the claws down. So she's squatting down. I see why they did it for stability durability, making it solid, and making it that would work properly in scale. But I don't know how they could have engineered that. If you would have did just on 2 legs, you would have a balancing issue unless you used a tail to help balance it or had a figure stand. I'm not sure how they could have done that. I think that would have been a neat idea as well. And one thing I talked about at the beginning of the video is having the heroes of the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon could have been something that maybe Funko might be doing down the road. I would absolutely buy that in a heartbeat. If we had a Tiamat statue, buy it in a heartbeat. But as far as this character goes, should you buy it? Well, I would buy, of course, the GameStop version, which is what you see right here. Price point, MSRP is usually $25 US. If you can't get it at GameStop or on their website, try second-party retailers. I would try your eBays and your Amazons. eBay, if you're looking for this version, you're probably looking between $50 and $60. If you're looking for the New York Comic Con / VirtualCon 2021, of course, that's the VirtualCon because I didn't mention it before, is because Funko didn't want to go to New York Comic Con. They had their own convention. That's why it's called VirtualCon. That one's much harder to get your hands on because this thing sold out extremely quickly, which I'm happy I got the GameStop version of this character. That one you're looking about, I think I checked the prices a day or two ago, you're looking anywhere from about 80 to about 120 just to have a different sticker. That's the only difference, as far as I know, between this version and the New York Comic Con VirtualCon version. If you had both the pops laying side by side, you couldn't tell the difference between this one and the other one. So I think, personally speaking, that's the way to go. I would go with the GameStop exclusive version here. I think it, again, is an awesome pop. If you're a fan of the Dungeons & Dragons game, if you're a fan of the cartoon series back in the early 80s, if you're a fan of dragons, if you're a fan of just Tiamat, the character herself, this is 1000% a purchase in my personal opinion. And the last question you're going to ask is, Rook, should you take this out of the packaging? My personal opinion, toys are meant to be played with. If you want to play with your toys, you can. This, to me, would be a perfect display piece to be sitting on a shelf. Absolutely, 1000% again, to get this out of packaging. You shouldn't leave it on card, because even I had difficulties trying to see everything about the character in the box, because the box has a lot of depth to it, and you can't see all the character in the packaging. You need to take this off card, my personal opinion. I would 100,000% buy this character. Again, very cheap on GameStop, $25 US. If you're looking for a secondary market, don't spend anything more. I would say 50 to 60 bucks at the maximum. Even give it probably until the end of December going into the following year to see if the prices dip down to, let's say, the $30 to $40 price range. And that's my review of the New York Comic Con / VirtualCon 2021 Tiamat oversized pop. I do hope you liked this video review. Remember to give it a like at the bottom of the page. Click that all important subscribe button at the bottom of the page as well. When you subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon to be notified of my latest videos. And of course, last but not least, you can click on Windows over here to watch more of my content. Take care, guys. See you next video. And bye-bye.